Oh, yeah? Really? What was my coach talking about? You mean on the podcast? The Nodcast or the Notcast? It's not a podcast? But hold on now, hold on. I thought that he was going to change the seasons and shift his focus from Resurrection Ranch over to the podcast, aka the Codcast, aka the Fraudcast. And I thought that he was going to give his faithful Tim followers a glimpse behind the curtain, a glimpse into what it was like in everyday life with him, between him and Megan and the boys. I thought that was supposed to be the premise of the podcast. But initially it was based upon some type of prison to population or prison to perpetrating anti-recidivism campaign. And so on the one hand, I thought that he was going to let you guys get a better feel, you heavy Tim followers, let you guys get a better feel for what it was like between a husband and a wife and some kids. I thought they were going to be sitting on the couch. No. Didn't my coach go about building up this grand podcast set in his living room? Didn't he go about that? Wasn't there a big grand opening, a big celebration, a launch, a premiere? You telling me they don't sit on the couch anymore? No? What happened? The boys couldn't handle their responsibilities? They didn't know how to function when there was no defined script? When they didn't have an opportunity to rehearse their roles in the podcast? The boys didn't know where they fit in? They couldn't fulfill the mission? Really? Wow. Well, what about the recidivism issue? Now, surely in his podcast, he's talking about trying to help ex-cons stay out of prison, help them get out there and continue their hustle without getting caught, and so that they don't go back into the system. Now, surely he's following through on that promise. No? He's not talking about that either? I mean, I've heard that he talks about his prison experience from time to time. I heard that he talked about the guy that got him to stop cussing. The guy that politely got my coach and y'all's pastor to stop cussing, at least on camera. I heard he talked about that. I heard he talked about studying the Bible, laying the Bible down, and then coming out into population with the other prisoners and trying to have to put on this tough facade. I know he talked about that. I do understand that he talked about how he went from being an ex-convict. He went from going to prison at 17 to owning property. I know that he talked about that. I do know that he talked about trying to fend off the haters, the perceived haters, the mythical haters. I know he talked about that. I do understand from what I've heard that he's had some type of spiritual warfare, or actually has an ongoing spiritual warfare within himself. I've heard about that. I definitely heard about the Planet of the Apes podcast. I heard about that one when he was talking about some apes and the ooh, ooh, ah, ooh. I heard about that one. But I'm digressing, guys. Welcome back to the end game. Welcome back to the end game. I was just going to take a moment to provide my reaction to what I hear has been going on with the prison to perping or prison to perpetrating or prison to pooping Notcast. Okay. But I was going to give my reaction to what I hear has been going on. With that, I'm going to give my reaction here. But what has he talked about as far as helping former prisoners, former people that have been in prison? What has he talked about with regard to them, to allowing them to maintain their citizenship? What has he talked about with regard to them sustaining a livelihood out in the general population with the rest of the civilians? What has he talked about?
Breaking news! Breaking news! This just in. 4,000 people have chosen to subscribe to the Prison to Purpose Godcast.
What? the Purpose God.
Yep, I saw it. It's on my phone. Y'all don't believe me? It's there. 4,000 of y'all chose God. 4,000 people chose God. And I don't know if y'all know what y'all in for. We're a little bit crazy, but we love Jesus.
A little bit.
Tiny bit.
Just a little bit.
4,000. Come on, boys. Show me a little love, boys. 4,000. 4,000. Thank you. Thank you. That's no love. A little bit too much love.
Okay.
Whew. All right. Hopefully we're recording.
Welcome to the From Prison to Purpose Godcast, where we teach you how not to recidivize, but to maximize our potential or your potential.
Same thing. And this channel is all about God,
right.
Just like all of our other channels. It's like we're here to help you unlock purpose in your lives.
That's it.
And we're just kind of, we're being funny. Ain't that right, baby? We're being funny, but we're also serious. We want to thank you all for coming along for this journey. Boys, y'all come on over here. We need to see y'all so y'all can kneel down. That's what you can do. Don't knock my microphone over, man.
Not much. Okay, so let me make sure I get this right. So he's not sitting on the couch anymore. No. And he's definitely not sitting on the couch with Megan anymore. No. Not with the boys either. He's not doing that either. Okay. Well, what about the general premise of a podcast?
To not recidivize, but to maximize your potential. To maximize your purpose, to unlock the things that are in you that have been laying dormant, that have been hiding, like they're already in you. You will dominate. You will dominate.
Okay, I know at one point he said he was going to keep his comments on just so that he could draw show ideas, just so that he could draw topics from the faithful Tim followers. No, he didn't keep the comments on. No, he hasn't been drawing topics from his followers. He hasn't been drawing topics from his steady Tim supporters. No. So you're just telling me that he turns on the camera and he starts walking.
P2P motivation, here we go. I'm 35 years old. And around when I was about 16, right before I turned 17, the spiritual prisons, the mental prisons, the emotional prisons, and all of those other prisons, those non-physical prisons that I had in my life, led me to enter into a physical prison right after I turned 17 years old. And so I started these prisons of my mind, these prisons of addiction. They led me to make mistakes and do things that positioned me for failure. And I ended up failing bad. I ended up falling bad. And I fell right into a jail cell, 17 years old. And as I was as I was going through this journey of this physical prison, I began to not get better, but to get worse. I began to go in the wrong direction. I began to not maximize my potential. I began to not fulfill my purpose. And I just went deeper and deeper and deeper into darkness.
So the podcast has devolved into him walking around with his camera, making angry remarks at the reactors, angry remarks at the reaction channels, taking digs at those that are watching the reaction channel videos and those that are commenting in those reaction comment areas. That's what he's devolved into with this supposed podcast.
Your clothes. Why do I smell like garbage? Why do I smell like garbage? Why do I smell like garbage? Because you've been hanging around garbage, for real. And it's time for you to dominate. It's time for you to win. It's time for you to prosper in those things that the Lord wants you to prosper in. But you're not going to be able to do it if you have the wrong people around you. Say it with me. 1, 2, 3. Dominate. We're trying to dominate everything we do. And we have to dominate every area in our life. We have to dominate our circles. We're trying to dominate everything we do. And we have to dominate every area in our life. We have to dominate our circles.
Wow. That's not what I expected from the coach. And so you're telling me that the supposed podcast is now really a nodcast. You're telling me that it's devolved into being a sleep fest? He's talking about nonsense. He's regurgitating Bible verse from time to time. He's mixing it in with movies. He's mixing it in with some of his fictional dreams. He's trying to apply his dreams to the real world. And that's where he is with his nodcast at this point.
I had a dream. And in this dream, I was being attacked by these, I call them monsters. Because in the dream, they were monsters. But the revelation of those monsters is they were demons. I was being attacked by monsters in this dream. And these monsters were attacking me, ripping at me, doing this, doing that. Like having their way with me. And so I was just balled up, in a fever position and didn't know what to do in this dream. And they were just attacking me and snarling and hissing and calling me names and saying what I wasn't and saying this and saying that and saying that. And in the midst of this attack, me being balled up in this fetal position, me being in this desperate situation, me being in this situation where it seems as if there was no way out. Like they're attacking me because I'm not defending myself. I'm not fighting back because I'm just balled up in this fetal position. They're having their way with me. And so in this dream, now I'm standing. And now these monsters are surrounding me. And so I'm turning around and it's like I'm in the middle. Just picture this scene. I'm in the middle and all these monsters are surrounding me.
Well, holy moly. That's a shock. That's truly a shock. I thought he was going to be sitting down with the boys, sitting down with Megan and talking about things going on behind the scenes, recidivism, etc., etc. But he's not doing that anymore. All right. So what is he talking about lately? Oh, yeah. He talked about hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. All right, well, that sounds admirable. That sounds like a good message from my coach. That sounds like a good message. But now, he was saying that, generally speaking, folks should hope for the best, but prepare for the worst, as far as being prepared for the unknown, possibly the unexpected, possibly the worst case scenario. That sounds like good advice. You mean that's not motivational? That's not inspirational coming from my coach? It should be. But he talked about some of the events that happened between him and his mama, Grandma Lily. He talked about when he got his sentence, how Grandma Lily had those tears in her eyes. And the tears in her eyes were only matched by the tears in his own eyes. But I'm like, hold on now. I thought he was an alpha male. Okay, why is an alpha male committing the crime when he's unwilling to serve the time? He's an alpha male, yes? Don't alpha males take responsibility for their actions?
Or trying to give me 25 years, 30 years, life sentence, and all those things. They were throwing out all these big numbers. And I was just sitting there crying, not knowing, like, is my life over? Am I ever going to have another opportunity to be somebody? I didn't know. There was literally a point in my life where I did not know if I was going to have another opportunity to have freedom. For real, because they were stacking these charges up. They were stacking up these numbers. And a lot of the things, because I really wasn't really facing a life sentence, but they were letting it be known that if I didn't take a plea deal, that they could pursue whatever they wanted to pursue. And they knew that I was guilty. You know what I'm saying? So I had to compromise to what they wanted to give me, on a certain level.
Oh, he wasn't an alpha male back then? He was only, 17? So when did he become an alpha male? Did he become an alpha male when he was behind bars? When he was getting dominated? Or when he was the dominatrix of his cell block? Is that when he became an alpha male? Or did he only become an alpha male when he surrounded himself with his wife, his grandma, and those boys? Is that the only point in his life where he once where he eventually became an alpha male. Once he got away from men. Really? Okay. But he talked about how folks are supposed to prepare, hope for the best. Kind of like Grandma Lily hoped for the best when she found out that she was pregnant with my coach. She hoped for the best. When she carried him for 9 months or 8.5 months or 8 3/4 months, she was hoping for the best, wasn't she? Yes. When she held him, when she nurtured him in her womb. Yes. When he went from the womb to the uterus, to the vagina, she had hopes for the best, didn't she? When she was raising him up as a young boy, as a young lad, with high hopes for him, she hoped for the best, didn't she? Okay. And so, unfortunately, at some point, she came to realize that the worst was at hand. When did she realize the worst was at hand? Was it when he stopped going to school? Was it when he started running the streets? When he started hanging with those gang members, being gang affiliated? When did she realize that she was in the middle of the worst with regard to her baby boy? When did she realize it? Okay. Was it when he kicked down her door? Was it when she realized that he had a violent mindset? He had a mean streak in him. Was that when she realized that she was going through the worst with him? Was it prior to him being sentenced? Okay. Because I'm guessing Grandma Lily's tears started long before the sentencing.
And my mom, this young 17-year-old that had so much potential, but was blocking out my own potential by stupidity. But my mom looked me in the eyes, tears in my eyes, tears in my eyes, tears in my eyes. And she had tears in her eyes. And this is what she said. She said, hope and pray for the best, but prepare yourself for the worst. Laziness, move. Depression, move. Insecurity, move. Just tell those things to move. Tell those things, get out of my way so that I can be who Jesus has called me to be.
Okay. When she realized that she had her hands full, when she realized that the worst was yet to come. So Grandma Lily hoped for the best. She experienced the worst. But now, I think that my coach, when he was talking about preparing or hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst, I think he likened that to the second coming of Jesus. And he was talking about people hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. And I'm like, hold on now. Wouldn't Jesus returning be the best of times? How is Jesus returning the worst? So aren't we hoping for the best? And shouldn't we be also preparing for the best? How is that likened to the worst? We should be looking forward to when Jesus returns. Okay? I really think his message was on being prepared. I really think that was the message. Okay? Those folks that look toward Jesus returning in a negative fashion, I'm not sure that those are Christians. I'm not sure they're Christians. But I guess that's consistent because from time to time, we question whether or not my coach is a Christian. Okay? And not just because he doesn't go to church. Not just because he does his own interpretation on the gospel. Not just because he's very selective with the scripture that he utilizes.
P2P motivation, here we go. So, are you feeling stuck? Are you feeling like I can't seem to get ahead? Are you feeling like I can't seem to get ahead at work? I can't seem to get ahead at school. I can't seem to get ahead in my faith. I can't seem to get ahead as a father, as a mother, as a child, as a brother, as a sister. I just can't seem to get ahead. And it seems like I'm always behind or stuck, or it feels like I'm walking in quicksand. And it seems as if it's hard for me to find success. Well, I want to give you a principle. that'll help you. And it's a very, very simple principle, because you're going to learn on this Prison to Purpose Godcast, on these P2P motivations, that I'm not going to give you things that are insurmountable. I'm going to give you things that you can like do in the moment, like something that you can change now. For real.
Not just because he doesn't allow his wife or his children to learn about the Bible, to learn about God, to learn about Jesus from anyone other than himself. But from time to time, we have to question whether or not he's truly a Christian. And so how would a true Christian, and oh, by the way, what pastor or even ex-pastor would classify the return of Christ as being the worst of times? Who would do that? Who would do it?
P2P motivation, here we go. So this is a saying that my mom told me a long time ago. And what she said was, she said, hope and pray for the best, but be prepared for the worst. And I think that saying, that wisdom, it applies to this situation, because the Bible tells us that Jesus is coming back. And so I think we might say that we believe that Jesus is coming back today, or we're prepared for him to come back today, but none of us are actually like ready. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, it's going to be a surprise to all of us. It's going to be like a twinkling of an eye. It's going to happen suddenly. Like I literally could be standing here talking right now, and boom, Jesus comes back. There's a thunder and the rapture happens and all things, everything like falls apart and everything, all chaos begins to happen. So we have to be ready. Hope and pray for the best, because the best scenario is that he gives us more time. The best scenario is that he allows his judgment to tarry, or to wait a little while, so that we can have time to get ourselves prepared more and more and more. The longer the Lord waits for his return, the better we're going to be, or I'm going to be.
How is Jesus coming back the worst? How is that the worst thing that can happen to anyone? Okay. But now, you talked about how when you were in prison, and once you discovered the Bible, or once you discovered God, or once God discovered you, or once you discovered Jesus, or Jesus discovered whichever tale you came up with. But you talked about how you would study your Bible, but then you would lay it down and you would have to step out into the population. And I understand that you classified the population as being violent criminals. And I'm like, okay, hold on now, coach. Hold on now, coach. Now, is that not the pot calling the kettle black? Okay. Now, with your past, your documented past, with being an armed robber, an armed thief, committing armed robbery, wouldn't that also classify you as being a violent criminal? Actually, the most violent of criminals are those armed robbers. Okay. And so when you talk about stepping out into a population of violent criminals, isn't that really one violent criminal stepping out amongst his folk? You should have felt right at home. Right at home, coach. And so I'm like, well, with you talking about being violent, with you committing your violent crimes, armed robbery definitely is a violent crime. And typically the sentencing reflects that. Okay. You indicated that you had anger problems in the past. Okay. We know about you kicking in mama's door. We know about you breaking out the glass at the trailer with you and Megan. Okay. We know about you donning a gun and sticking up folk and robbing folk. Well, they say birds of a feather flock together. But once they get caught, birds of a feather get locked. They get locked together, coach. And so how in the world could you look down on those other, and I do mean other, those other violent criminals, considering that you yourself were a full-fledged violent criminal? a full-fledged violent criminal. So how could you look down on your prison mates? You guys are simply flocking together. You guys are simply locked together. You deserve whatever sentencing you were handed. But all right, coach. That's it. That's it for my quick reaction to what I hear has been going on with Tim's prison to perping not cast. His prison to perpetrating not cast. As in it's a snooze fest. As in when Tim starts talking, apparently people start snoozing. As in, okay, P2P motivation, let's go. Is he done yet? But that's it for my reaction. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please subscribe. Chop it up in the comments. Burner Tim, I saved a place for you in the comments. Once you're done snooping and screening our comments, get up in there. I do want to shoot out some love to my current subscribers. Thank you for showing me that love. For those viewers that have not yet subscribed, please consider subscribing so that we can continue to shine that light. Until next time.